"11 Kung Fu horror movies that you must watch before you die." The horror genre is more malleable than any other, and you can literally blend it with anything from action to sci-fi to a psycho thriller. Martial arts and horror also offer an interesting combination. Their culmination has led to some classics over the years that fans have loved. After all, there's nothing like getting the chills from the storyline and enjoying some adrenaline rush through all the kung fu action. In this video, we have put together some of the best kung fu horror flicks that promise to be a thorough entertainer for your movie night. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Rigor Mortis, 2013. Chin Shu-ho is a former star of the show Mr. Vampire and is presently depressed after his wife and son leave him. He attempts suicide by hanging himself, but a neighbor storms into the room and cuts the news to set him free. Soon, Chin realizes that the apartment building where he lives has all kinds of supernatural entities and paranormal incidents take place. He tries to get rid of some of the evil forces at work and thus begins fighting among the residents. However, the final sequence changes the course of events completely. The world might not exactly be how Chin had perceived it to be. The directorial debut of Juno Mak would take you by surprise as he crafts a visually stunning homage to the vampire flicks of the 80s in Hong Kong cinema. The film has a nice and steady build-up where the scriptwriters keep their cards close to their chests. You get to learn about the backstories of each of the characters while the director builds an eerie, unsettling atmosphere where the viewer constantly lives in suspense. There are some significant amounts of graphic violence, and these bloody, gory scenes are not for the squeamish at heart. The best part about the movie, however, rests with a last-minute twist that will change your entire outlook on the film. Clever synthesis of Japanese horror elements blended with Chinese folklore makes for an intriguing narrative. The actor, Shu-ho Chin, was suffering from a lot of personal issues and yet put his best foot forward with this one. He slept less in order to look sufficiently tired for the role. Rigor Mortis is an unsung hero in the world of horror movies, one that you must check out.
Strike in their hearts!
The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, 1974. The vampire hunter Van Helsing was in China for a lecture when he was persuaded by 7 kung fu trained siblings to help them reclaim their ancestral village. The village is now overrun by some powerful vampires helped by Count Dracula himself. Their army of undead slaves also poses a threat to anybody looking to reclaim the lands. Van Helsing embarks on the dangerous journey along with the Kung Fu brothers and his son. Can he defeat Dracula one more time? The iconic Hammer Films collaborates with famous Hong Kong martial arts film studio Shaw Brothers for this one. The result is a thrilling entertainer. After the nice build-up, the film soon becomes a series of bloody battles that are great to watch. Action scenes are top-notch, especially the moments where Van Helsing attacks the zombies in the village. Peter Cushing is rock solid in the role, and John Forbes Robertson is pretty impressive as Dracula. It is known that Christopher Lee was offered the role of Count Dracula, but he did not find it appealing enough after reading the script. Coming back to the movie, you wouldn't mind the low production values, as that is well compensated by some kick-ass martial arts. This is strongly recommended for those who appreciate the deadly combo of martial arts and horror. Versus 2000. The Forest of Resurrection in Japan is one of the 666 portals that connect the world to the other side. A group of gangsters, an escaped convict, and an unknown woman have met in this portal. They soon realize that all the victims that have been murdered and buried in the forest are coming back to settle old scores. There is going to be a final standoff between light and dark, where some ruthless fights will decide the victor. The film could be summarized in 3 words: zombies versus Yakuza. But that would speak nothing about the volumes of menacing fight scenes and tons of gore that make it such a fun flick. The storyline would be the least of your concerns once the protagonists start on their zombie hunting rampage. The movie is entirely shot in a forest setting where the mysterious lighting of morning and twilight does half the work in creating the ambience. Despite the low budget, the action is well put together, promising some jump-in-your-seat moments. From sword fighting to bullets blazing to some old-fashioned martial arts, the combat sequences will make it worth your time. The final fight between the prisoner and the main bad guy would take your breath away. Ignore the cheesy dialogues and poor acting, and you will enjoy the perfect horror flick for a slumber party with friends. Encounters of the Spooky Kind, 1980. Chung is a courageous man who is always up for the bold and daring tasks. Oblivious to him, his wife and the evil master Tam are in a relationship. Tam plans to get rid of Chung by sending him to spend a night at the haunted temple. Priest Chin Hoi unleashed a deadly vampire who is hired by Tam to kill Chung. When all seems lost, the priest's righteous colleague comes to the aid of Chung and attacks the wicked Chin Hoi and his vampire, who will win the contest between right and wrong. This is one of the best Sammo Hung films that you will ever come across. Besides being incredibly funny, he is also apt for the mind-blowing stunts that prove his athleticism despite being fat. With mesmerizing kung fu choreography, you will enjoy the fight scenes in this pioneering movie that explore Chinese vampires for the first time. You will enjoy the blissful combination of comedy, action, and the thrills of vampires and magic. The characters are very funny, and their antics will make you tear up with laughter. The film has a very satisfying climax that will leave you beaming once you are done watching. This movie is also special for crafting the groundwork for future horror flicks in Hong Kong. It also influenced American filmmakers like Sam Raimi, and you could see the influence in his works like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Magic Cop, 1990. A former cop with great knowledge in wizardry and witchcraft rejoins the force to help in the investigation of a series of murders. He joins forces with two local cops and soon traces the murders to a drug ring that has some sinister strategies. It is run by a Japanese drug lord who practices black magic and employs ghosts and vampires to work for him. Can the cops get the better of this evil wizard? A cop with magical powers takes on evil vampires. Could it be any better? Magic Cop is a cracker of a film with generous doses of comedy, horror, and action. Lack of budget hardly bothers the making, as you will find some exciting makeup and hilarious stunts. This movie wouldn't have been the same without the enigmatic performances of Lam Ching-ying, one of the finest Chinese actors. His death marks an irreparable void in the film industry. This film stands out as one of his best performances and masterfully combines the good bits from Mr. Vampire and a Chinese ghost story. The action scenes are simply a joy to watch with the ultra-precise acrobatics and elegant absurdity. In a world where horror comedies are becoming a rarity, it is blissful to sit back and enjoy some of the classics from the bygone era. Mr. Vampire Saga, 1988. When a Buddhist priest moves in as the next-door neighbor to a Taoist priest, sparks of animosity fly between them. Just as they are finding it hard to get along, they realize that they must do so for the greater good. A dangerous vampire breaks loose from his coffin and endangers the entire countryside. The two priests come together to deal with the menacing vampire in an action-packed face-off. The original Mr. Vampire is considered to be a gem in horror comedy, and the success sparked many sequels, this being the third one. It returns to the original style, where the goal was to amuse the audience with a balance of silly and scary. The performances of veteran actors Anthony Chan and Wu Ma uplifts the quality of the movie. Those who are acquainted with Hong Kong action flicks are used to seeing Yuen Wah as the tough bad guy, but in this film he plays an effeminate character. It is great fun to watch the comedic differences between Buddhism and Taoism when the two priests clash with conflicting ideals. Almost halfway into the movie, the vampire action begins and things get more interesting, but even in the most intense fighting scenes, the makers do not let go of the comedic angle. Get some popcorn and put logic at rest while you enjoy this unique venture. Chinese Ghost Story, 1987. Ning Choi's son is a tax collector who comes to an abandoned temple to take shelter for the night. During a stay, he meets a beautiful woman, Nip Shu Sin, and falls in love without knowing her identity. She turns out to be a ghost who is forced to work for a cruel demon. Ning plans to save her from the evil spirit and also save her soul in the process. His daring mission receives the help of a Taoist warrior as he ventures into the mysterious supernatural realm to save his love. While these films started making their way to the Western markets, they immediately had an eager audience. The people hadn't seen anything like this, and it was way too much entertainment to let go. This film is another cult classic that will allow you a whole new cinematic experience. For starters, the cinematographers have done a fabulous job, and the film looks like a painting in motion. The sets are outstanding, and every scene, be it in a forest or in a temple, is mystifying. Leslie Chung steals the show as the brave and innocent tax collector, and his scenes with Joey Wang have just the right amount of passion. The special effects are decent, especially the tree spirit's killer tongue. The action is quick and precise, and throughout the movie, there is not one boring moment. The climax is happier than the mushiest of rom-coms and has a typical feel-good vibe that you will cherish. Human Lanterns, 1982. Lung Shu is a wealthy man who hires Chow for making a special type of lantern for the annual festival to compete with his rival Tan. However, Chow is still grudging over the humiliation of losing his woman to Lung and is determined to have his revenge. Once many of the local women started to go missing, it seemed to be linked to the lanterns. Chow has involved a strange method to make the lanterns that would teach a lesson to Lung. This is a cult classic from Shaw Brothers, a brand known to create solid entertainers over the years. In this movie, you will have everything from a gripping plot to some action-packed martial arts-infused scenes that will keep you hooked. When the women go missing and you see Lung and Tan blaming it on each other, you can't help but admire the gutsy attempt from Chow. His sinister plan, along with some gruesome torture scenes, ensures plenty of gore in the movie. For instance, there is a scene where the skin is being sliced open and ripped off of a still alive victim. Besides this, you have a lot of dismembered body parts, blood-stained equipment, and drying skin pieces that create a horrifying atmosphere in Chow's lair. The beautiful sets and costumes in use are also quite admirable. If you plan on watching this one, get your hands on the uncut version for the best effects. The Boxer's Omen, 1983. A Chinese man seeks revenge on a Thai boxer who attacked his brother and broke his neck. While pursuing the boxer, he comes across some monks whose leader has been killed by an evil wizard. The Chinese man is the only one who could stand up to the evil force, and he becomes a monk to fight it. A series of violent fights follow as the boxers face off against one another and the evil forces. The movie is totally bizarre and crazy, with a plot the likes of which you have hardly ever seen. The strangest of twists, cheap monsters, and the magical confrontations make this an absolute entertainment fest. There are some mind-blowing action scenes that will divert your attention from the plot. You will watch bamboozled as demon bats, spiders, etc. emerge from people's mouths. There is a scene where an alligator is cut open to fit a corpse inside to bring back the dead soul. In the mix of such madness, the only shortcoming is the mediocre special effects that will make you laugh at times. The acting performances uplift the standards, and the storytelling has charm despite the weirdness. In short, for an experience like never before, watch this movie for the fun of it. Witch from Nepal, 1986. Joe is on vacation to Nepal along with his girlfriend. In the course of the trip, he is chosen by a local mystical tribe as their chief and is given some magical powers. Joe returns to Hong Kong, but little does he know that the powers would soon come in handy. The evil forces from Nepal come to attack him for the token that he received from a slave girl of the tribe. Joe must use his powers to fight the evil forces with all his might. Witch from Nepal brings together several genres like romance, fantasy, action, and horror. The inconsistency of the narrative might be an issue within the Western viewers, but once you sit through that, you have a gem of a movie at hand. Chow Yun-fat stars as the protagonist and pulls off power-packed performance. The action scenes are truly jaw-dropping, although we must admit that they get nonsensical at times. When Joe fights some zombies during the later parts of the film, you are bound to sit back and take notice. You will also have some memorable horror scenes, especially when the misty cemetery becomes possessed and the zombies start waking up. The innovative camera angles make for an interesting visual experience. The movie might seem to be a tad slow-paced, but for those willing to sit through, the rewards are high. The Dead and the Deadly, 1982. Wally, who was fondly known as Fat Boy to his friends, helps his uncle to run a local funeral service. They are also helped by their local friends Momo and Lai Li. One day, the body of Ma Lun Chio is brought back by a new life and her brother. This makes Fat Boy suspicious, and together with his friends, he investigates the death of his friend. Things might be different from what they seem like. This is as good as a slapstick comedy gets, with all the elements packed together to induce the laughter. The protagonist is a pompous fat guy who is kicked around by everyone. The action scenes are mostly filmed for the hilarious effect, but there are some moments, such as the one where the friend is murdered, that offer a serious outlook, besides a few fight scenes that stand out for their brilliant choreography. This movie is a must-watch for the amazing costumes and set designs that add to the funky feel of the plot. When the story takes a U-turn towards the end, things get even more bizarre, and you have to see it to believe it. While the special effects are decent, the animation of the guards that harass the girl felt a bit off. In totality, it is a captivating, creepy horror comedy that is perfect for a night of de-stressing.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.